Hey everybody, it's Sam. This is my Module 5 response video. Yay, it's our last one for the semester. And I will first start off with Brittany's post in reference to African American and disabilities. I thought this was interesting, especially being associated with Lewisburg as well, about the women's basketball team and um, things that they go through and the perception as not only African American but as student athletes. And I found this really interesting because sometimes when you look at demographic of some sports teams, it's predominantly African American. So it's interesting to learn that that there is name calling in that as well. I really like that you interviewed the alum that is dealing with blindness and how you related it to your personal life and being your best friend. I kind of already knew about your eyesight, but I found it interesting that you realized that it could be a disability that could affect you down the road. And then, of course, I really love how you incorporated the dog community, since I know you're really big into that. And you talked about the lady in the wheelchair and how they thought she was playing a sympathy card. And I thought that was very interesting, especially after talking to some of the members of the clubhouse and with them being having a disability and some being in wheelchairs, they were able to discuss what they go through as well. And some people kind of maybe on the opposite side, they're sympathetic because they are in a wheelchair. So just to hear that side of the story was interesting as well. In higher education and some difficulties, that you discussed were funds and the transition from high school to college. I definitely thought this was interesting because last semester I focused on underprepared students, and so I had a little insight from that as well. And I like how you talked about the salsa dancing and that you learned something different and it was a little bit out of your comfort zone, but I think that's what we learned the most from. And then on a more serious note, you said you watched the documentary about the soccer team bonding despite the difficulties that they were trying to overcome to get a better education for themselves. And you discussed that it was that you were looked at as an outcast and how Hispanics can be looked at that way as well. And you saw this, what you noticed was that being documented is something that can be an issue or things that they're trying to overcome. And I find this interesting because for my job, when we are accepting applicants into our academy, you have to be a U.S. citizen. So if you weren't born here, you have to show documentation that you are a U.S. citizen based off of that citizenship credential. And for Cody, I thought it was interesting how you identify in the LGBTQIA community, but looked at it from a woman identifying as a lesbian approach, and that you're very passionate, and I see that in some of your videos that I've seen on here, as well as in the classroom discussions. And the one thing I thought was interesting, talked about the location of where the center was located, which I would like to see when I'm in Wilmington next time so that I can see what you saw, but how it's in a big area and that a lot of people can see, and if they're not comfortable with that area, it might be discouraging for them to go in. But I like that you were able to see how the students interacted with the staff members in there. And then I also liked how you noticed when you were at your NASPA conference, the lack of representation for the lesbian community, and that it mainly focused on gay rights, which people interpret as male and male versus female and female, and that the photos that were used for the presentation were 2 men and transgender. And your overall goal is wanting to work with people in the community and to try to make it less marginalized for the lesbian community. And I look forward to hearing about your interview with the RAs that identify as lesbian at our showcase coming up. And finally, for Tamara, I like that you focused on disabilities with veterans. I also was able to learn about that interviewing someone at Neuro Community Care, and also that it impacts not only the person that is disabled but also their family members. And we need to take in consideration of words that we use. I have a friend from college, and her niece has Down syndrome, and people, when they use the word retarded, sometimes it's mainly joking, but it still can be taken seriously, and that it's rude to those people that have a disability, because that's the term that they use negatively um, back in the 60s and 70s, I think she said. But I like how you discuss the disabilities are not the same, uh, and I've learned that also working with the members at the clubhouse. And the one thing that you talked about that I found the most interesting was at the International Day of Acceptance, the booth had a table and it was covered with paper and the signatures covered it. And I think that's super, super impactful. And I wish I would have seen that, and hopefully you got a picture of it so I'll be able to see it at Showcase. And I also liked how you discussed that it was inspirational at the Special Olympics 5K, and I'd like to discuss that a little bit more with you next time when I see you. And that's all that I have for y'all today. I look forward to seeing your final projects at the Showcase, and I will definitely see you there. I hope you have a great night and finish your semester strong.